Yo, guys, what is up? Welcome back. Today we're going to be reacting to the fascinating paradox of Treyarch's easiest map, Buried, which I don't know if I would consider it to be the easiest necessarily, but for like the first 45 rounds or so, yeah, definitely. But yeah, let's get into this. Buried is one of my personal favorites, so I thought this would be an interesting zombies video to check out. Make sure you check out the original creator. Link will be in the description. And let's get into
The
this.
year was 2013. The summer of July. No responsibilities, just time for a brand new zombies map in the peak of Black Ops 2's golden era. Releasing was the final Victus map of Black Ops 2. And with the incredibly difficult maps of Transit and Die Rise that released before it, you'd be right to expect the greatest challenge yet. But that couldn't be further from reality. Betrothed in features players would take years and years to fully uncover. It's ironic that Buried is set deep under the earth. As you and the Victus crew discovered, this town became overrun with zombies and an evil witch that sits in an old creepy house. The kind you'd never—
I will say, I remember my first ever introduction to Buried was, funny enough, through Ali A, believe it or not. I saw his video of him playing Buried, and that was, I think, when I decided to get the DLC for myself.
Retreat at. Some people believe this town to be stuck in a time loop, while others at the time of Black Ops 2's release believe this to be the work of Raul Menendez, Black Ops 2's main antagonist, but I'll let you guys fight amongst yourselves in the comments on that one. At first glance, it can be hard to understand how a dark, close quarters map, abundant with tight alleyways, and redundant of large open spaces could be considered easy by traditional zombies map difficulty standards. But drop down the hole and you realize that Treyarch did something very different on this map, as if they carefully considered the things that contributed to a negative or difficult experience in zombies, and just did the opposite. You are quickly introduced to the chalk wall-buy system that allows players to drop a weapon for an easy 1,000 points, or 2,000 points if strategically used during a double points power-up, contributing to higher points for quicker door, perk, and box buys. The next piece of the ease occurred when players found the jailed cell keys. Now, who was in the cell? How about a giant
Leroy Jenkins?
Not much was known about Leroy back then, versus now, other than him probably being a reference to Lenny from the book of Mice and Men. But shockingly, Leroy isn't even his real name. His real name is Arthur. I guess the community really liked the name Leroy, so it just got stuck. Leroy, or Arthur,
it's called Pi, and if that sounds familiar to you, it's probably because you've seen their ads everywhere. It's an ad blocker that works on Twitch, YouTube,
I don't
Amazon,
understand. How are you going to give me
an
ad blocker ad?
with just about anything you want him to, as long as you give him some candy or some booze, which is honestly a pretty good incentive I'd give it to as well. The versatility of Leroy was vast, and there's bound to be features you've forgotten or never even knew 11 years on from release. Giving Leroy booze would force him to clear obstacles, opening the map without players needing to
he was pretty handy.
Or he'd even hold the crawler indefinitely.
I will say, I think after many years of playing through Buried, Leroy is definitely kind of annoying to deal with sometimes, but
you to complete
he
the
is still
Easter egg
handy,
step,
for sure.
or just go to the toilet. Leroy could also smash the box into place, preventing it from moving with the dreaded teddy bear, and overall, he just helped to drastically ease so many of the traditional zombies pain points that bothered players on literally every other map to the point. Speaking of the box, it also featured 3 incredibly wonderful weapons that help make Buried possibly the easiest map in zombies history, with 2 of them being exclusive to Buried itself. The Raygun Mark II was introduced in Buried and was everything the OG Raygun wished it was, offering
Awaken to a world of wonder in Final Fantasy XIV Online.
great damage increases, accuracy, ammo, and most importantly, removing the splash damage that made the ray gun so dangerous in the previous maps. This would not remain exclusive to Buried, but it was a must-have for players on the map. However, it was Buried's 2 exclusive wonder weapons that had the biggest effect on easing the map's difficulty. The Paralyzer was the crown jewel of this map, taking
my personal favorite wonder weapon.
Transit's jet gun wished it was. It didn't need to be crafted and built like the jet gun. It couldn't break like the jet gun. It could be pack-a-punch, unlike the jet gun, and it enabled movement tech that the jet gun could only dream of, which became especially useful in one area of Buried. With these two wonder weapons, it really seemed as if Treyarch considered the failures of previous wonder weapons and sought to fix them with revised models. The final wonder weapon was the most controversial one ever made, the time bomb. This damn wonder grenade was so broken because of its core functionality that allowed users to rewind the entire game back to the point in which they placed the time bomb. You could be on round 31 at the end of the fantastic Easter egg we will be getting into later into the video. And then your teammate could sneeze, slip, and hit the time bomb button to bring you back to round 1. If used as intended, the time bomb could be pretty useful at making the game easier, allowing teams to revert from sticky situations and game-ending downs. However, it was never used like this for most teams, and mostly just made for funny time bomb trolling online.
Yes, I got ray gun number 2! Oh man, I was about to get it again. Who used the frickin'? Oh my god. He shouldn't have said that. He used his time bomb so we could go back in time. When someone got a ray gun. You.
This rightfully never made a return in any Zombies
That's
map, but it wasn't
amazing.
for any of the reasons above. Its removal from future entries to the Zombies franchise was because of its contribution to the most fundamentally broken
Yeah.
and difficult
Nothing beats
teasing
Black Ops
feature
2.
of this map.
It was such a fucking
The Bang had
amazing
made
Call of
previous
Duty.
appearances in the previous two Victus maps, but its most prolific impact was on Buried, and players could use time bombs to glitch the bank and deposit hundreds of thousands of points with relative ease. Gamer Subs Christmas Sale. Have you been naughty?
I'm sorry, we're going
The
past
map
this.
also had a lot of small Easter egg rewards that made
Gamer
it even
subs.
easier. My favorites
I think I've
always
heard of that
included the
before.
woman in black in the house. This was actually the inventor
Bro,
of
he
the
didn't buy
iconic
double tap.
Pack-a-Punch,
You're supposed to
Jebediah
buy double tap
Brown's
when you jump in
mother.
there.
She was, in his moment of weakness, dug up from her grave and put into Pack-a-Punch itself, turning her into this
I did not know that. That is terrible. That is literally awful. What the hell?
ghost lady. She
I
was
had no idea
unlocked
about
in
that.
our game by Leroy bulldozing into her fence, and was really spooky to younger Evan, as once you entered her house and ran through it, she would attack at full speed. But once you got past her and her point grabbing, she would actually reward you with a free perk.
Which is
Another free
freaking
perk
awesome.
to be obtained with the ballistic knife in the bar. By shooting it at the dartboard, she would begin to play a tune. And if you went to the basement of her house, she would be seen playing the same tune on the piano. And you could give her a tip for a free perk. That's not to say you were completely
Well, it wasn't a free
invisible on this
perk.
map, though.
It was
Between
10
the holes
points.
in the tight, narrow caves making you near death on a fall, the narrow pathing in the map's design not really allowing for trains, and the confusing layout of the hedge maze, which changed every time you entered it. But these small flickers of difficulty were quickly mitigated when you realized that the paralyzer allowed you to fly over the doors of the hedge maze, and training wasn't necessary when
Yeah.
everyone just sat in the most OP camping spot of all time next to Juggernaut.
Yeah,
For those who
I'm
really
like,
still can't
nothing really
comprehend
is
the
as
ease of
good as
Buried,
that
and the
is
one
maybe,
keyboard warrior who will comment that
the
it's harder
catwalk
to die
on
right.
Reese.
You could literally have a Pack-a-Punch Ray Gun Mark II, Pack-a-Punch Paralyzer, another Pack-a-Punch weapon of your choice, 7 perks, and 3 buildables built all before round 1 had even finished. And if that doesn't make it the easiest map of all time, I don't know what will. However,
It is pretty
there is
fucking
something
insane.
that is difficult on this map. As a send-off to Treyarch in his last map as director of Zombies, Jimmy Zielinski put a lot of effort into stepping up the buried Easter egg. To me, this map is often cited as easy and fun, but only one of those remains true for its Easter egg. And as the Zombies community would come to find out, the Easter egg main quest is also often cited as the toughest of the Zielinski era.
Wow.
By this point in Zombies,
I think,
we've
I
seen Easter
don't know,
eggs
for
that
me,
span
I've never attempted that many Easter eggs, but Buried was one that me and my friends tried. And I think we made it a decent part of the way through, but eventually we gave up,
days.
unfortunately.
Others that were solved in mere hours, and unfortunately some that came with some cheating controversy. This one was no different in the controversial department, but thankfully the community was quick not to regard the cheating team from taking glory. Play the Game Central was the subject of controversy in Mob of the Dead, for having leaked information and steps of the Easter egg at his disposal before the map had even been released. They were posting the world's first completion while everyone else was was early into the map and refused to post the steps / a guide right away. Ben from PTG even made it a point to only share information with YouTubers who treated him kindly. With that being said, PTG was first to bury. But as Mr. Waffle Waffles explained when I asked him about it,
PTG had a reputation at this point, right? That meant that people were skeptical of them at the best of times. And so for them to come out and just have endings of Easter eggs didn't seem particularly believable to anybody. And especially if you're just going to post the very end, but you're not going to post the build-up, right? You're not going to stream you solving it. You're not going to discover it in step with the community. If you're just completely detached and far ahead from everyone else, then that's sus, right? And even to this very day, in the Easter egg hunts, the difference between the first team and the second team getting it is minutes, usually, and occasionally we get into the sort of hours territory between Team 1 and Team 2, but that's pretty rare, right? Because everyone, more or less, moves through these steps in kind of unison. But that's not what happened here, and it was pretty clear to everybody that they hadn't arrived at their solution legitimately. So it kind of got written off by the whole community.
PTG was posting the endings of both sides of this Easter egg, but no steps. There's even a joke nodding to this fact in the world's first of the Maxis side, which we will touch on.
We're the first people to do it on YouTube that doesn't play the game.
The story goes that right when the map came out, the Easter egg hunt was on. Easter eggs in Black Ops 2 weren't servicing the fanbase in sheer puzzles and spectacle the way that Moon had. And although Mob of the Dead gave us a true game over screen and a way to beat the map, the fanbase still wanted to see how our Victus crew's story would finish. In comes legends bringing their communities together, like Mr. Raffle Waffles, Mr. Dalek JD, NGT Zombies, MC Sporthawk,
NGT Zombies,
Liam
classic.
Winter, Noah J, and more. As
Man,
you know,
where's freaking
Victus has both
NGT
Rick
Zombies
Doffin
these
and
days?
Maxis
They
Easter
were
egg
great.
steps. The main canon ending is technically Maxis, but Rick Doffin's diverts enough that both are worth discussing. The hunt began with an iconic intro. On July 2nd of 2013, Spider-Bite discusses all the intel of Maxis and Rick Doffin's discussions.
Attention, my co-warrior friends. You can hear me, yes? Our journey inches ever closer to its completion.
Essentially, the Easter egg is thrown at you right off the bat in Buried. Now, Rick Doffin's side and Max's side were a lot easier to follow this time, since they both start with two diverging paths, unlike Die Rise and Transit, which had the player in the same locations. The Gallows and the Guillotine were the two different locations. The first thing a Zombies Easter egg veteran would need for this one was fairly obvious: the wonder weapon, the Paralyzer. But what for? Well, either shoot this enough to make these orbs glow, or use the resonator trap, and they would break. The next step was found by Yay It Drops, who discovered that there was a lamp
Yeah, I remember
floating
some of
around
this stuff.
town with which throwing a grenade caused it to drop and you could interact with it. In true Ghost Hunter fashion, filling up this lamp with souls was required, but the means were different. Yay It Drops posted that Rick Doffin's side called for witches to be killed in order to fill up the lamp, while NGT Zombies posted that Max's side needed Leroy to kill zombies while Sugar rushed out. And this hilarious clip from back then just basically sums it up. Have a listen.
Okay, so this is what we did. Now he takes off, and I think it has to do with the zombies, like the stink zombies. When the zombies stink and he gets in front of it, he's like, ew.
Ew.
That stinks. I'm going away now. So what we did, we ended up getting a few kills, and he just ran away. And then we decided, okay, well, next round, we're gonna round up a bunch of zombies, and then we're gonna get him to kill a bunch. And you do hear the indications that the lantern is being filled. Maxis does give you some audio cues. And then here's what happens when what I believe is we filled the entire lantern, and Maxis comes on, and this is what he says.
No!
Now, you might be thinking, well, this Easter egg so far is just as easy as the map itself. And while I agree with you, I think the next step is where the community should have been stumped for a while. See, after filling the lantern, this message or code appeared right outside the saloon. It's essentially a tic-tac-toe cipher, where by breaking it into 3 letters at a time, you can decrypt your answer. You just need to visualize it like these great guides from back then.
this will reveal a piece of ciphertext on the wall. Now, I'm not going to get you to decrypt it yourselves or anything like that. I'm literally going to give you the 5 options of things that it could be and what they translate to within the game.
So after watching those videos and seeing how difficult
I don't know if we got to that part.
Do you think the community solved it, or
I don't
do you
think we ever
they
figured out how to
brute
fill
forced
the
it?
lantern.
The community decided that punching appropriate signs in the tunnels caused a wisp to spawn in. Now, how did they decide to do this? Galvanuckles were making a sound when they punched the signs in the tunnels. Guiding the wisp was not an easy task either, and really stepped up the challenge of a low difficulty map. You needed the new perk Vulture Aid to even find the damn thing, since it let you see through walls. And this step was different depending on which scientist you chose to work with. Now, Max's side was guiding the wisp through a bunch of zombies to keep the current charged, and this was a major pain for anyone who couldn't run trains around the map. You really just needed a lot of zombies. MC Sport Talk was the first to upload about this step on July 3rd of 2013, just passing by Spider Bite from NGT Zombies. Richtofen inside of this was completed first by Yay It Drops, and this one worked by having to corner the wisp. This meant positioning your team throughout the map to run into it when it spawned in, and the timer was very quick. It was a good thing Leroy could hold a crawler for you, but this would have taken a long time for teams. Once the wisp was either trapped at the guillotine or charged at the gallows, teams were on the hunt. If a puzzle code was brute forced and solved rather quickly, then this was no problem, right? While Richtofen's side needed the time bomb and some soul collection. With the time bomb specifically, this was one of the hardest, if not the coolest steps zombies had ever seen. This is also where information on who was first was getting hard to track. So the step was discovered to go like this. A time bomb placed on the guillotine takes you to a paradox, an infinity round, where zombies...
I find this interesting because I've never really known all that much about this Easter egg past the lantern step, so I'm just filling my brain with knowledge right now.
The players needed monkey bombs so they didn't die almost instantly. The goal here was to find 4 bodies of the players themselves out of 13 potential spots where you were looking for a single switch for the guillotine. This was easily the hardest step to do out of the entire Easter egg, both sides included, since you had very little retries, and it was very easy to die from zombies that didn't die and seemingly kept spawning. Even finding a body didn't mean you found the switch, and if you went down with the switch, it would fall off of the player, causing so much confusion if somebody went down in that time. There is also added frustration that the Easter egg would sometimes soft lock, as the switch would just fall through the map instead of falling on the ground. You could tell the team at Treyarch really wanted the masters of the Easter egg community to do this. After this step, and we're going to stick with Richtofen for this, the next one was going to the maze and flipping the levers in the correct order, since it changed per game. In fact, some of the maze even changed every time you walked in.
Right.
And the final step was one of contention for a world's first completion. This step was called Sharpshooter, and it was some Old West target practice.
I think I remember this step too. I feel like we tried like both sides and ended up trying a bunch of different steps. So I don't know what the heck happened. We did not know what the hell we were doing.
And the goal was to not miss a single target from all 4 players. But I always remember that one friend would just say, "Yeah, I'm done," and then you'd have to reset anyway. Clearing all of these would reward teams with the achievement Mind Games. You would also get all perma perks and this dialogue.
I am in control. The ether is mine to manipulate as I live. The moon is now my own personal plaything.
But with this achievement unlocked, that didn't mean there wasn't a true ending. But before we do that, we should talk about the canon ending for Ludwig Maxis. Maxis didn't have players going back in time, but instead a whole nother puzzle itself. This was called the Bell Puzzle, and to say that it's a trial and error puzzle is an understatement. Essentially, players are put in different positions around the map and they have to ring bells corresponding to one player reading a light cord in the mansion. This step was frustrating, mostly due to players in these rooms and coordinating the lights of the bells in each one. Now, I won't lie, this one is easier than Richtofen's step, but this one was more dependent on communication, so it was definitely difficult in a different kind of way, making both scientists actually have some intrigue to do their Easter eggs. Once the players rang these bells with the help of Mr. Dalek JD's guide on the topic, the Sharpshooter step was up again, the one that he called very annoying in his video. This video also has an extremely 2013 ad for zombies. Just please have a listen.
And this app is called the Ultimate Utility app for Black Ops 2, and this app will be so helpful, and it's really helped me out in terms of after I've played zombies and I want to jump into multiplayer, but I'm not too sure what guns to go for, what perks, especially when there's new maps. I'm not too sure about the layouts and where like domination flags are, or the best parts of maps are.
That's a pretty cool app. I mean,
this step, just like Richtofen's infinite round step, was a big difficulty jump for Easter eggs. Buried had trained its players to become akin to ease throughout its tiny layout, but having trial and error puzzles for each scientist showed that this Easter egg brought out more team coordination and difficulty than anything the Victus crew had seen previously. So now that both scientists' Easter eggs were out of the way, players began to wonder what the hell this box with all the lights in the courthouse was all about. Well, as each map had progressed, we have discussed a nav card and a nav table. This was built on each Victus map, including Buried. With each nav card inserted and each scientist's Easter egg completed, players were making progress to the true ending. I spoke to Mr. Waffles as he was the world's first legit completion on Buried's Easter egg with Richtofen, alongside his teammates of Liam Winter, Pick That Gaming Show not using leaked intel, Zombie Frenzy, and Saggy Berries, with Liam helping from the outside while the team was subbing in. On the world's first, Milo had this to say.
Buried was wild because I actually started the map late, personally, so I was at college when it came out, and so I was seeing the first couple of steps starting to be solved while I was still at college. Then I rushed home. I was like, I can't wait any longer. I've just got to get home here. Rushed home, jumped in with my team, and started doing things like, for example, we solved the cipher that you use during the Easter egg, and I have a video about that, which feels very dated at this point. We got in this really awkward position where we felt like we'd gotten as far as we could in my team of me, Zombie Frenzy, Star Wars Bob, and Nick That Gaming Show. We were all together and we were pushing forwards, but we were stuck. And then Liam hopped onto Skype and he messaged us and said, hey guys, I know what the next step is. Like, I'm pretty confident I know how you do it. And the problem was that Liam wasn't in the game. And so we basically had to, as a group, decide that Jose, Zombie Frenzy, was going to drop out of the match, and then we would start a new match and invite Liam and get to that step and then do it. Which was very controversial, because that meant that Jose was technically not first in the world in the team, except that he'd been in the team up until that point, so as far as I'm concerned, we just had a 5-man first in the world for the first time ever. And I really distinctly remember as well, when we got it done and we got it finished, it was so late that I had college again, like an hour later or something. And so I remember saying to Liam, it is absolutely integral you get your guide up ASAP. Normally it would be me, right, making my no-nonsense guide. But I was like, Liam, here's my footage, here's everything you need. Please make your guide the first one out here, because we've been first, and it would suck if we then had to wait, because we then got beaten to being first guide because I was at college. Like, that would be really unfortunate. And he did it, and he smashed it, and I then made my guide, like, I don't know, that evening or something when I got home from college. And that's the story of Buried.
Richtofen had been moved to a talking zombie. Play That Game was not given props for World's First, and the hunt continued despite them, with the community rallying against the cheating way. And now, Samantha was back in control for our final map. And yes, that's right, Origins.
Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure you check out the original video, link will be in the description, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace out.